I always assumed that with enough hard work and love, a marriage could weather the toughest storms. Growing up poor taught me to hustle. Growing up longing for stability taught me to value security. So I made it my mission to build a life where my wife and children never felt the instability I did as a kid. I wanted a home filled with comfort and ease, a place where we could all breathe easily, laugh often, and move toward a brighter future together. For many years, it seemed like we were doing just that. I juggled two full-time jobs while earning my second bachelor's, then pushed through a master's degree in a demanding STEM field. All the while, I encouraged my wife to find her professional footing. She earned a healthcare degree that promised good pay and job security. I imagined a future where we both contributed financially and felt proud of what we'd accomplished. Then the kids came along, two beautiful, bright children, now ages 3 and 5. They became my world. After the births, my wife decided to pause her career to be a stay-at-home mom. That choice made sense at first. We had a newborn and a toddler. I was still finishing my master's and life was hectic. But I told myself it was temporary, that eventually she'd step back into her career once the kids were a bit older. I was wrong. While I raced ahead at work, landing a decent role with a salary north of 105 BKO plus bonuses, her drive seemed to fade. We could afford a nanny and her mother's support at home. I made sure everyone's needs were met. Bills paid, house maintained, groceries stocked. With the nanny handling much of the daytime load, my wife no longer faced the typical pressures of a stay-at-home parent. She had help, downtime, and financial security. Yet she seemed to sink deeper into resentment and discontent. Now that I work mostly from home, I see how late she sleeps in, sometimes until 10 a.m. I watch her spend hours scrolling through her phone or shopping online while the nanny and her mother help with the kids. I don't begrudge her rest or leisure, but it's hard to understand why, despite all this support, she's become colder and more distant. I hear her complaints, how life is overwhelming, how she feels I've somehow ruined her opportunities. In our quieter moments, if I share my struggles, my global role that keeps me glued to meetings, the endless responsibilities of providing for everyone, she dismisses them as trivial. If my feet ache from travel, hers ache more from standing in the kitchen. If I mention a tough day, she insists hers was tougher. It's as if we're locked in a competition of suffering that I never wanted. I admit I'm no saint. I'm not the perfect husband or father, but I've tried harder than I thought possible to give us a life that most people from our backgrounds would envy. I pay the bills, manage the finances, arrange maintenance for the cars, handle the dog's vet appointments, and even cover part of my mother-in-law's expenses. I handle my own problems quietly, knowing how lucky I am compared to her. Yet the luck feels hollow when I realize I can't even get a comforting word or a genuine smile. Just once I want her to say, "You're doing a good job," or "I'm proud of you." Instead, I'm often met with anger or silence. Sometimes it's as if I'm invisible. We've encouraged therapy, her parents, my parents, me. She dodges it. Conversations lead nowhere. When I try to explain my feelings, she turns it back on me, or worse, shuts me out entirely. Over time, I've stopped sharing my pain with her. I confide in my kids and even the dogs more than I do in my wife. They don't dismiss my worries. They don't turn my struggles into a contest, and they don't blame me for a life I worked so hard to improve. At one point, desperate for clarity, I showed her a post I'd written, laying bare my feelings and the advice I'd received from strangers online. Instead of understanding or empathy, she left, staying with her sister for days. For that short time, I became a single parent. Strangely, it wasn't much different from before, except we ordered more takeout. When she returned, she tried to slip back into the household as if nothing had happened. The moment I tried to discuss our dynamic, she accused me again of not caring about her struggles, ignoring the fact that I've twisted myself into knots trying to support her. I can't help but feel trapped. Leaving would mean losing time with my children, who are my anchor in all this. Staying means enduring this cold, loveless coexistence. Just two adults sharing a house, going through the motions, with me silently carrying the weight of everyone's comfort. On bad days, I consider that maybe I'm just not lovable or worthy of kindness. On better days, I remind myself that my kids need a stable environment, and for now, I can provide that. I hold on to their smiles and laughter and the gentle companionship of my dogs as my tether. I know some people believe a man shouldn't complain, that I should just suck it up. But I'm human. I have feelings, dreams, and vulnerabilities. I'm not asking for a trophy or constant praise. I'm asking for basic human decency, understanding, a kind word, maybe a hug. Something that tells me my efforts and sacrifices mean something. I never imagined I'd reach a point where I felt lonelier lying beside my wife than I ever did on my own. As time passes, I see no shift in her demeanor. She remains unhappy, blaming me for a life that, by most measures, is stable and comfortable. If there's any chance of change, it doesn't lie in my hands. I've done all I can. She refuses therapy, balks at honest conversation, and brushes off my pain. So I endure day after day, smiling for the kids, maintaining this facade of normalcy. Each morning, I wake up before dawn, do what needs to be done, and wonder if this is all there is. The truth weighs heavily. The woman I married is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize, someone who doesn't seem to care if I'm happy or heard. The future looks dim. It's not a grand, tragic ending, just a quiet suffering that's hard to articulate. I'm left hoping for miracles that never come and fearing a divorce that might deprive me of the children I adore. I stand still, caught in a limbo of silent endurance, knowing that any true comfort or change is unlikely to arrive. So I carry on, doing what I must, putting on a brave face and trying not to drown in my own muted sorrow. I have my kids, my dogs, my work, and an empty space where my wife's warmth and reassurance should be. It's not the life I dreamed of, but for now, it's the one I live.